Meeting to order. This is the February 26, 2020 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item number 2, seat and alternate. Commissioner, if you come up and join us, please. And item number 3, hearing of residents. Did we have anybody sign up? Nope, no one signed up. All righty. Press on to item number 4, the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Item A, the minutes for the February 12th, 2020 regular meeting. Item B, PC 2020-001, consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Halley's Cove subdivision, Unit 5, an approximately 36-acre tract of land generally located east of FM 1518, approximately 500 feet south of Trainer Hale Road, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas. Commissioners, we need to pull either of those items for discussion. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Who was first there? Okay. So I have a motion from Commissioner Greenwald, a second from Commissioner Ray to approve the consent agenda. We have any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. So can I count tonight? What is that, 6? 6 ayes, no nays, the motion passes. Okay, item 5, we have 2 public hearings tonight, and the way we'll work these, we'll start each public hearing with a staff presentation. Then if the applicant is present and would like to make some comments, we'll allow that. Then I'll open the meeting for public comments, and after that we'll have questions and discussion by the commission. So item A, ZC 2020-001, hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 0.5 acres of land to public use district located at 13805 IH10 East, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas. Nick?
Good evening, Commissioners. As Commissioner Law said, this is a zone change for around half an acre off I-10 to public use district. Just for your reference here, this is a subject property in blue. This is Interstate Highway 10. Right here at this location, we're about halfway between FM 1518 to the southwest and Trainer Hale Road to the northeast, right in between those. In preparation for this meeting, we sent out 3 public hearing notices to the surrounding property owners. At the time of the staff report, we have received no responses to the notices. Here's the current zoning map of the area. As you can see, the subject property, indicated with the gold star here, is currently within our ETJ and is surrounded by the remainder of the larger parent tract in the ETJ, the Interstate Highway 10 right-of-way, and land within the city zoned pre-development. So like I said, the property is within the ETJ and is currently under a delayed annexation development agreement that was executed in July of 2010. This agreement between the City of Schertz and Real Acquisitions LLC was to be in effect for around a 10-year period, which would have expired in July of this year, 2020. But before the expiration of this agreement, more recently, the city purchased approximately half an acre right here off of the larger 86-acre parent tract and intends to utilize the property as a lift station. So looking at the comprehensive plan, this lighter green color indicates agricultural conservation, which is the future land use designation of the property. The proposed rezone is in conformance with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan because the public use district will allow the city's engineering department to develop the property as a lift station, which then improves the city's ability to serve the residents within South Schertz and allow for safe and orderly development of the surrounding properties via the Womanholing Creek wastewater line project. A resolution accepting the petition for voluntary annexation was heard and approved at council last night. And then based on the comprehensive plan here, the surrounding properties that are undeveloped, either zoned pre-development or also within the ETJ under delayed annexation development agreements, staff is recommending approval of the proposed zone change as submitted. Member of our engineering department is here if you have any specific questions as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Does the city want to make any comments or just wait for questions? Okay, all right. So at this time, I'll open it to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the issue to the commission can step forward to the microphone. Please give your name and address for the record and try to hold your remarks to 3 minutes. Any takers? These are the best kind of public hearings, I guess, all right? Okay, what did the mayor say last night? Going once? Going twice? Nobody? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. All right, commissioners, your turn. You have questions, comments, discussion?
Nick, is that near Woman Hollering Creek? Is that where it is?
If no one has any further questions or discussion, we'll certainly entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we approve the request for CZ 2020-001 as presented.
All right, sir, and just so we're clear, that's a recommendation for approval to council.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Ray, a second from Commissioner Broad. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, no nays. Motion passes. Okay, item B, another public hearing. This is zoning case 019-002. Hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 12.5 acres of land from manufactured home park district to planned development district located approximately 1,500 feet southwest of the intersection between Schertz Parkway and Maskey Road, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas, also known as the Windy Meadows Subdivision Unit 4. Nick?
Thank you. So Windy Meadows Subdivision Unit 4 is going to be outlined in green here. For your reference, this is Maskey Road, just to the north of the property, and then this is up here in the upper corner is the intersection between Maskey Road and Schertz Parkway, and then this is the remainder of the Windy Meadows subdivision. This is a public hearing as well, so 13 public hearing notices were mailed to the surrounding property owners, and so far we have received 0 responses in writing back to the notice. Here's the current zoning map of the area. The location, the subject property, once again, with the gold star, is zoned manufactured home park. Looking at the effect of the zone change on the surrounding properties in this location, so as you can see, Windy Meadows Unit 4, right here, this green area, is currently completely surrounded by other land zoned for single-family residential use, and then the West Eats Creek drainage channel, which is part of the Windy Meadows Unit 3. Since the base zoning of the proposed PDD will remain manufactured home park as it is today, the zone change should not have an adverse impact on the existing and potential adjacent land uses. As part of every PDD, there are certain regulations within our UDC that will be modified as part of the development standards. So the first major amendment for this one is to Section 2162C, minimum site requirements. So these are the two snippets from the development standards down here and then the current UDC we have. So under the current regulations for manufactured homes, each house exists inside of a space or a slip that acts as a lot, and those are sized 60 feet by 110 feet. And then the homes then have setbacks from the slip boundaries, such as essentially a front yard setback of 25 feet from the nearest corner of the manufactured home to the front line of that slip, a side setback of 10 feet from the manufactured home to the edge of the slip, which increases to 25 feet if it's adjacent to a public right-of-way. Other structures on the specific space or slip also have a minimum setback from the setback line of 10 feet. And then the minimum distance for any of the homes at any point should be 25 feet. Under the proposed setback regulations, the main difference you're going to see is that the homes will no longer be required to exist within those individual spaces or slips. And instead, the spatial relationships of the structures within the manufactured home park will be regulated based on three just simple setbacks, which are that each dwelling unit shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from all other dwelling units. And this includes any structure attached to the home. So that's going to include any sort of landings that are attached to the home as they're placed. So essentially, it's going to be around the same as the 25 feet that it was. The second setback is that each dwelling unit minimum setback of 15 feet from any access easements. So those are going to be the roads within the manufactured home park, little streets. And then each dwelling unit shall have a minimum setback of 10 feet from any public right-of-way or perimeter property fencing, excuse me. These specific setbacks were crafted with the assistance of our chief building official and fire marshal, and they focus on being hopefully clear and concise without necessarily compromising any life safety standards. There are three other main benefits of the proposed setback regulations. First, they're easy to understand and measure for the building inspectors and property owners when orienting the homes, which should make our inspection and permitting process for the subject property more efficient, hopefully. Second, they allow for much more flexibility on the part of the property owner to be able to tailor the manufactured homes to the actual residents who live there. So without the mandatory slips or spaces in the proposed regulations, the property owner will not have to revise a site plan on file to rearrange any of those slips when a new homeowner comes in. Manufactured homes are, as you know, crafted in various different shapes and sizes, so instead of having to amend that site plan each time, the property owner can just make sure the new homes meet all of those three setbacks. So the flexibility instilled within this regulatory system, based on just setbacks instead of also setbacks to spaces and slips that are defined through a site plan, will hopefully allow for a greater variety of manufactured home sizes. Sorry, there we go. The second major amendment to the third thing that is better about these specific proposed setbacks is how they more closely align with how the property exists on paper. So all manufactured home parks are platted as one lot with access easements for the roads. So it makes more sense to regulate based on setbacks within the one lot instead of by slips that act as like quasi-lots within that specific subdivision. So the second major amendment to UDC, within the development standards is regarding the parking requirements. So the standards will still require a private parking pad for each home as they do today, but they now also include the addition of 32 common area parking spaces along Redbud Way and Marigold Lane, and then 3 temporary parking spaces at the terminus of Rain Lily Lane until it connects to Live Oak Road. And I know that's hard to grasp if you can't actually see the roads just instead of the road names, but I'll show you the conceptual site plan later for the specific location of those. The common area parking will not only provide designated parking for families with more than just 2 cars and visitors, but it will also reduce the on-street parking that would naturally come up without a common area lot, which will allow emergency services to access each home much more efficiently. The third major amendment to the UDC is to section 2162F, the addition of the landscaping and screening section. So there will be additional landscaping and screening requirements for Live Oak Road to include a 5-foot landscape buffer along their entire frontage, which inside it will have a 6-foot to 8-foot tall masonry fence, and then 8, we'll say planting areas, little planting pods spaced between 80 feet to 100 feet apart, and then each of those are going to include a minimum of 12.5 inches of trees, minimum tree size of 2.5 inches individually, and 20 shrubs with a minimum 5-gallon size. And so the reason for the ranges that you're going to see here between the 80 and 100 and then just the minimum of 12.5 inches is to create a little bit more variety and to break up the monotony of sometimes the landscaping that can come in along a thoroughfare road For instance, they don't necessarily have to plant 5 2.5-inch trees just to hit that 12.5 inches. They could have a larger tree that's already there, or a larger tree that they want to put in, and then could fill in the rest of the 12.5 inches with 2.5-inch trees if they'd like, just to increase the variety and make it look a bit more natural and established as opposed to like it just got put in. There will also be additional screening along Maskey, so 6-foot to 8-foot treated lumber fence with top rail, and then masonry columns that'll be placed every 40 feet, or another 6-foot to 8-foot masonry fence, just like it is, or just like it would be along Live Oak. So this would be an upgrade along Maskey to the current wood vinyl fence. It'll last much longer and it'll be easier to maintain. So I included the latest approved master plan on file for Windy Meadows units 2 through 4 to kind of illustrate what the development of the site could potentially look like currently. And I say latest on file. This is from 1998. And this will show Unit 4 as it could be developed in the spaces and slips that were previously established. And then here is the proposed conceptual site plan that they have with the PDD. You can see things that you wouldn't necessarily see as it's currently platted and planned under the plans on file with the common area parking. And I know it's a bit hard to see as it's zoomed out, but they have notations here and in the development standards for the buffering and screening requirements along Live Oak and Maskey. And then just to be clear, this is a conceptual site plan, so the point of these specific regulations are they're not locked into place, the home locations, so these are just representations of what they could look like meeting the setback requirements, so they could reorient everything as long as they meet those setback requirements. But this is just to show how it could look. Looking at the comprehensive plan, the subject property is designated for both single-family residential and manufactured housing. Here, the single-family is the yellow, this brown color is the manufactured housing. And since the proposed zone change to PDD includes a base zoning district of manufactured home park, which is what it is currently, the rezone is compatible with the comprehensive plan. Overall, staff is recommending approval of the zone change as it has been submitted to the improved regulation of the spatial relationship between the manufactured homes and the other dwellings, access easements, public right-of-way within the subdivision, the additional common area parking spaces that'll allow for less on-street parking, helping both the homeowners and emergency services, and then obviously the additional landscaping and screening requirements that will come along the roadways, including the residential collector, Live Oak Road. We do have representatives from the project here today, if you have any specific questions for them too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation of any kind? Not required.
My name is Craig Shellback. I represent Yes Communities. My office is at 6405 North MacArthur Boulevard in Irving, Texas. And just here essentially to answer any questions here on if there should be anything. Yes Communities acquired this property back in 2013, I believe. And we, in assessing what we have, we've always had this one section out here on the end of Maskey Road that was not developed. And working with the planning department here, this seemed to be the best way to proceed forward here, to finish out the development of Windy Meadows and at the same time provide right-of-way dedication here for the future extension of Live Oak Road. Appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions that you may have in the process of considering it.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who would like to address the commission, please step forward, give your name and address for the record. No takers on this one either, huh? Nobody? Last call. All right, close public hearing. Commissioners?
I have one question. Excuse me. Are there any other standards besides the 15-foot from other dwelling units for the storage accessory buildings?
So they'll conform to all other accessory structure requirements within the UDC that are not being modified within the development standards. So the only thing changing about the accessory structures specifically is that they will be, within the specific development standards, that they'll be the 15 feet from the homes. So they'll still have to conform with every other accessory structure or shed, whatever standard within the UDC. Yes. So the subdivision will, how it works is these sections essentially will replace the current sections we have within the UDC. They'll still have to conform with every single other one. Of course.
Any Excuse me.
Sorry, what was that? Yeah, exactly. So I think you're highlighting one of the strengths of this specific system. So say a double wide wanted to come in where a single wide would have been on a slip, instead of making sure that it meets everything within the slip, they don't have to modify the site plan and take care of any new spaces or slips. They can just ensure that the double wide meets all the setbacks to the surrounding right-of-way, fencing, access easements, or dwelling units. It doesn't have to meet anything else besides those setbacks specifically. It'll have the parking pad, obviously. But I think that's a strength highlighted within these specific setback regulations, is that it doesn't limit itself to like the new manufactured home having to be very closely sized to the manufactured home that was there before. So yes.
Assuming city council makes the change to the, and accepts this zoning change, will there be a following plat process that will come to us?
Yes.
So the conceptual drawing we're seeing here, which in my opinion is okay, it may be different from that. The plat could be different from what we're seeing here.
So what you'll see on the plat is one lot, and then these will be the access easements within the specific lot.
Okay.
That's the plan for access easements as it is now.
Okay. And when you say it was the PDD was written in conjunction with the fire department and so forth, was that mainly for access, so that they can? It's pretty tight in there now.
Yeah.
So they're confident that they'll have adequate access in and out of here.
Yeah, so when I say it was written in conjunction or taken in on the advice of the fire marshal and building official, it was primarily within access into it, but also the setback regulations. So how much room do they really need, considering the car pad that's going to be up there, considering the masonry fence that's going to be behind some of them, how much room did they need within those access easements to the dwelling units to be able to adequately do their jobs? And so that was what I meant by that.
Okay. I think looking at the concept drawing, the common area parking is a great idea. That's greatly needed in there because it gets pretty crowded and jammed up in that community right now today. There's also a phrase in there where it talks about the regulation is unique to the city. Is it unique to Schertz, or is it unique to us and surrounding communities? Are we the only ones doing this at the moment?
Unique to Schertz for sure. Not 100% sure about all of the surrounding communities. I know there are others that regulate specific subdivisions based on setbacks alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that this specific regulation for only setbacks instead of those spaces or slips would be unique to the city.
Yeah, I can certainly see the need because the design of manufactured housing has changed over the years. I mean, it's not uncommon to see a double wide with a bump out porch and
Exactly.
all kinds of other stuff. So you could almost have
You can see some of them here,
take up triple spaces. So
the existing ones there. Yeah, of course. And that was definitely one of the.
yeah, it's needed, and if this thing goes through, it'd be kind of interesting to see. And the plat process would take care of the access for the Live Oak Road extension as well,
Yes.
right? Okay,
That'll be done in the plat process, yeah.
all right.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to see, you're right? It could, provide a foundation for how
Yeah.
we regulate in the future if we would like, if it goes successfully.
All I have, Mr. Chairman.
I have a list, so before I start, anybody else? Okay. And these are really kind of technical questions, Nick. The concept, I like the idea, and of course, the conceptual drawing we're looking at, those are typical, and they might be double wides, but they're the typical rectangular shape. But I can see where they would have the flexibility in seeing what's being produced in the manufactured home industry today. I can see where that doesn't fit the lot concept. So I think the concept is good. I just have a few implementation questions, if you will.
Sure.
Councilman Broad started because I did have a question about the plat process because I really like the street layout. And I guess the question is, how much can they do without coming in and replatting the property? In other words, if we approve this rezone to a PDD, how much could they actually do without coming back for a plat?
Nothing.
Nothing. So they couldn't put another manufactured home in there until they platted. Okay, so we'd have another shot at seeing how the streets are gonna be laid out, okay? And I know you guys don't like to talk about the future, okay? Or at least your predecessor didn't, but my question concerns Maskey Road.
Yes.
And what the future of that road is, because in this conceptual drawing, we have three entrances to the area, but two of those are off Maskey Road. Has the city decided what they're going to do with Maskey Road once Live Oak gets extended? I guess it would have because somehow the Ackermans have to have access, but I don't know whether that'll be from the Parkway or from this direction. Do we have any idea if that part of Maskey will stay open?
So I know this road, sorry, where's my mouse? This section of Maskey, like you said, it'll have to remain in place because of access for this subdivision and then the subdivision to the north of Maskey Road as well. As far as plans connecting it to Schertz Parkway after Live Oak is built, I'm not 100% sure. I think the idea is for Live Oak to be that main collector that goes through the area. That obviously Maskey will have to stay there. I mean, it's how those subdivisions are accessing the public streets.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure whether that
Well, that's
intersection will be.
okay. We're only asking, or they're providing a 5-foot landscape buffer along the Live Oak extension. So I'm assuming that 70 feet of right-of-way, that includes the sidewalk. Is that correct?
That will include the sidewalk.
So we'll still have sidewalk plus the 5-foot.
Yes, so the sidewalk is included in the section for the residential collector right-of-way. It's 70 feet of right-of-way, but actually 42 feet of pavement and then curb and sidewalk.
Okay. And then those sidewalks, I guess, will come with the road construction rather than the applicant
it'll
putting them
come
in?
with that, yeah.
Okay. The existing lots that are in there, will this basically, I guess what, they'll come in and replat it and remove all those individual lots, but you're saying those aren't on the current plat, correct?
So the way the plat works is it's just, even today, it's just one lot.
Okay,
But then there's further classifications of the slips or spaces that act as lots simply to regulate setbacks.
okay, but those aren't part of the,
No, it's not actually a part of the plat. What you'll see within the plat is this will just be the lot, and then you'll have this 30-foot access easement.
so this will give them the flexibility then as
Absolutely.
other residents leave, then they can apply that flexibility to putting more things in there.
Yes, this will apply to not only the proposed.
And I did take a look. It's my understanding that the individual, the people's living there are not property owners. It's the property is owned by the Yes group, right? Okay. I mean, this is kind of in the weeds kind of stuff, but without lots, who's going to regulate the street addresses? How are we going to? Have we talked to the Postal Service about that? You know?
No, actually, obviously
Hey.
communication with them will have to be taken care of with the plat, but I guess if you want to talk about what currently is existing?
Veronica, catch me if I'm wrong here, but we have house numbers and unit numbers for each of the residents that are there within our community. And mail is delivered under, I don't know if it's delivered to the homes, it's the mailbox kiosk.
Okay. Well, and I guess it's nothing different than what you have today if those lots aren't officially part of the plat. And the other thing that's in the back of my mind is the 911, the dispatch system. So, you know, typically we assign street addresses and we file that plat and that gets fed into our dispatch system. No, since,
Right. Regardless of whether there's actual lots or not, you can think of it as something like an apartment complex almost. So the addressing is still going to have to be approved by the city through our GIS department, Bear, Metro, and then the county as well.
okay,
So they'll have a system in place for approving that, what they're going to want to see. I imagine within the subdivision, there's numbers or how they can figure out exactly which house,
mhm.
whose property.
Well, as I
what.
say, we seem to be able to find our way today, so it, you
It'll
know,
probably exist very similarly to now.
Okay.
Right now.
last question.
No problem.
And I guess it has to do with the kind of thoroughfares, but why a fence along Maskey and not a wall like you have along Live Oak?
So with Maskey not being on the thoroughfare plan, and then it not necessarily up in the air whether it's going to connect to Schertz Parkway, we figured it'd be appropriate not necessarily to have a solid masonry fence like they're going to have, but still have an upgrade with, so I don't know if you've seen the fence now, but it'll, under the regulations, they'll either be the masonry fence, like they could still do that, or it'll be at least the wood fence with the top rail,
Okay.
keep it, maintenance will be a little bit easier, and then it'll also have masonry columns. It's something different.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure there's even a fence there today, is there?
There's like a fence like right
Is there? Okay,
there.
all right.
Yeah, it doesn't go along all the entire thing, but
Okay.
there's one right on the top right.
All right. Well, that's a satisfactory answer. As I said, I thought it would probably come down to the type of thoroughfare, you know. But, I mean, that's why we have walls along Schertz Parkway, but along Savannah Drive, they're fences. Same type of thing, okay. Well, believe it or not, that's all of my list, so,
Well, if I'd clarify as well, you had mentioned about ownership of the property.
right.
Correct, the property itself is all owned by yes communities, and the residents do rent the property that the homes sit on. In many cases, the residents actually do own the home,
Right.
but they lease the property.
Yeah, I could see that from the appraisal district records, that it would show up as a mobile, I think, manufactured home or something, but then you'd see the real property.
Right.
And when you look at their map, it's just one big lot, the individual little home. So I just want to make sure I had the right idea because the only way I can own my lot is when it's drawn out on a map, but we don't have that problem with you folks. So, okay, thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Okay, again, we're looking to make a recommendation to City Council on whether or not to approve rezoning this property. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve ZC 2019-002 as presented with all the recommendations from city staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And that was, I'll tell you, I got to get this ear fixed. Okay, so Commissioner Sellers, you seconded that, right? Okay, so I have a motion from from Commissioner Greenwald and a second from Commissioner Sellers to recommend approval to City Council. Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 6 ayes, no nays, so we'll pass that on to City Council, recommend approval. Thank you. Yeah, item 6, requests and announcements. Item A, request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Anyone have anything? I have one thing, and I'm kind of waffling back and forth, but I think I'd like to have on the agenda for discussion and possible action. It was pointed out to me at the last meeting, and it was my error. But our current bylaws, section 6, item 1, where it talks about who can make motions, everybody can make a motion except the chairman. And I'd just like to, if we could, discuss that, and if that's the will of the current commission, but I'd at least like to have a chance to take a look at it Anyone object to that?
I think that's the way Roberts.
Okay, well, we'll get it on the agenda if we could then, and we'll kick it around a little bit. Anyone else have anything for the future? Okay. Announcements by commissioners. City community events attended, continuing ed. Anybody done anything interesting since the last meeting? Nothing there? Okay. Announcements by city staff. Anything for us tonight? Nothing. Boy, okay. Well, gentlemen, if no one has anything else, we stand adjourned.